Is the era of locker room tension finally over for the Birds? Or did the front office just pull off the most genius psychological masterstroke in the history of the league? While every other team is out here overpaying for aging stars, Philly just made a move that has absolutely nothing to do with stats and everything to do with keeping their franchise superstar from hitting the breaking point. If you thought the offseason was winding down, you're dead wrong, because what just happened in the midnight hour is going to change the entire chemistry of this offense. We're talking about a reunion that nobody saw coming, a tactical depth move that doubles as a therapy session for the best receiver in the game. But will it actually work, or is this just a Band-Aid on a bullet wound? Before we dive into the madness of this roster shakeup, smash that subscribe button if you want the fastest NFL updates on the planet. The league is shaking right now because the front office just went out and secured Elijah Moore. On paper, you might see this as just another depth chart addition, but if you look deeper, this is a massive signal to the rest of the locker room. We're talking about a guy who entered the league with the weight of the world on his shoulders. He was a human highlight reel back at Ole Miss, a consensus All-American who made SEC defenders look like they were playing in slow motion. But since he stepped into the pros, it has been a rocky road, to say the least. This is now his fourth team in a very short window. He's bounced from the Jets to the Browns, then a stint with the Bills, and now he's landing in the city of brotherly love. Why can't a talent this explosive find a permanent home? The talent has never been the question. When you watch the tape, the juice is undeniable. He's got that twitch, that suddenness that makes slot defenders wake up in a cold sweat. But the NFL is a business of, what have you done for me lately? And Moore has been caught in some of the worst offensive environments imaginable. Starting your career with the Jets is basically like starting a marathon with your shoes tied together. That organization has been a graveyard for offensive talent for a decade. They haven't tasted the postseason since the days of Rex Ryan and the ground and pound era. For a young, explosive playmaker like Moore to be dropped into that chaos, it was almost a setup for failure from day one. Despite the mess, he still flashed. He put up over 500 yards as a rookie and followed it up with decent production. But the consistency just wasn't there because the stability wasn't there. Then came the move to Cleveland. He actually hit a career high in receiving yards there, proving that when he's utilized correctly, he's a legitimate.
It's caught at the 30 by Devontae Smith. It really dictates the defense.
Barely got targeted, followed by a blink-and-you-missed-it stint in Denver. People started writing him off. They started calling him a gadget guy or a bust. But Philly sees something else. They see a 25-year-old with fresh legs who excels at winning on those intermediate in-and-out routes from the slot. In this new offensive system, having a guy who can create separation in the middle of the field is pure gold. He's going to have to scratch and claw to make this final roster. But the potential upside is astronomical. Who is to blame for a player like Moore moving around so much? Is it the player, or is it the teams that failed to use him? Drop a name or a reason in the comments below. But here is the real kicker, and the reason why this signing is sending shockwaves through the fan base. This isn't just about X's and O's. This is about A.J. Brown. If you've been following the Birds, you know that A.J. is the heart and soul of this passing attack. But you also know he's a complex guy who wears his heart on his sleeve. He's been open about his battles with mental health. And honestly, he deserves a standing ovation for that level of transparency. It's rare in a sport this tough to see a superstar be that vulnerable. And guess who has been there for him through the darkest days? Elijah Moore. Their history goes back way before the NFL. When Moore was just a recruit visiting Ole Miss, A.J. Brown was his host. They became roommates. They became best friends. They became brothers. A.J. has gone on record saying that Elijah helped him navigate through some of his deepest bouts of depression. This isn't just a teammate. This is a lifeline. By bringing Moore into the building, the front office is essentially building a support system around their $100 million man. It's a move that says, we know you're struggling, we know you're frustrated, so we're bringing in the one person who knows how to get your head right. Think about the leverage here. There were rumors swirling about A.J. wanting out. There were whispers about him looking at New England or wanting a fresh start because he wasn't happy. The trade market for a receiver of his caliber is always tricky because the asking price is so high that most teams can't afford the draft capital or the cap space. So, if you can't trade him, you have to fix the environment he's in. You can't just tell a guy to be happy. You have to give him a reason to enjoy coming to work every day. Bringing in his best friend is the ultimate player-friendly move. It's a calculated risk that could result in the most locked-in version of A.J. Brown we've ever seen. If he's happy, the league is in serious trouble. But wait until you hear how they handled the offensive line depth, because that might be even more critical for a deep playoff run. While everyone is hyper-focused on the flashy wide receiver moves, the real ones know that games are won in the trenches. The Birds just brought back a massive insurance policy in Fred Johnson. This is a one-year deal that provides a level of security that you simply cannot overvalue. Last season, when the legendary Lane Johnson had to step out due to injury, Fred stepped in and proved he belongs at this level. He's a massive human being who plays with a mean streak, and while he had aspirations of being a full-time starter somewhere else in the league, the market didn't quite materialize the way he hoped. His return is a massive win for the coaching staff. Lane Johnson isn't getting any younger. He's been the gold standard at right tackle for a decade. But the reality is that the injuries are starting to pile up as he gets long in the tooth. Having a swing tackle like Fred Johnson, someone who can play both the left and right sides, is the difference between an injury being a season ender or just a minor speed bump. He might not be the guy you want starting 17 games, but as a high-end backup, he's elite. He held his own against some of the best edge rushers in the league last year, and having that continuity with the offensive line room is huge. It's these types of under-the-radar signings that remind you of the 2017 championship run. Remember when the team signed guys like Patrick Robinson or Chris Long? Nobody was throwing a parade for those moves at the time. They were seen as fillers or depth. But by the time February rolled around, those guys were making the game-changing plays that brought a trophy to Philly. The front office is playing the long game. They aren't just building a starting 11. They are building a 48-man war machine. They know that by week 14, it's not the stars who win you games. It's the guys like Fred Johnson who step in and keep the ship steady when the stars are in the medical tent. But speaking of things that keep the ship steady, we have to talk about the absolute hypocrisy happening at the NFL owners' meetings. This is where things get truly hilarious if you're a fan of the Birds. Remember last year? Remember how every coach and GM in the league was crying about the Tush Push? They were calling it unsafe. They were saying it wasn't football. They were acting like it was some kind of illegal cheat code that was going to ruin the integrity of the game. It was the #1 topic of conversation at every press conference. And why? Because Philly was perfect at it. They were unstoppable. They were converting 4th and 1s at a rate that made defensive coordinators want to quit their jobs. The league was ready to ban it. They were lobbying for rule changes. They were using player safety as a shield to hide the fact that they just couldn't stop a play that was perfectly legal. But then, 2025 happened. The Birds had a rough year. The chemistry was off, the execution faded, and suddenly, the Tush Push wasn't a guaranteed yard anymore. Their success rate tanked. And do you know what happened at the owners' meetings this year? Absolute silence. Not a single person is banging the drum to ban the play now. Why? Because the Birds aren't dominating with it anymore. It's the ultimate proof that the league wasn't worried about safety. They were worried about the Philadelphia Eagles. It's the classic nobody likes us, we don't care mentality. When a team was winning, the play was a disaster for the sport. When the team is struggling, the play is just part of the game. Other teams tried to copy it. Some even had more success with it than Philly did last season, but you don't hear any outcry about the Jaguar push or the Cowboy push. It only matters when it's happening in South Philly. It's hilarious to see the 180-degree turn the league has taken. It just goes to show that the NFL is a copycat league that only tries to change the rules when they can't figure out how to beat you on the field. The stage is set. You've got a rejuvenated wide receiver room with a built-in support system for your WR1. You've got a fortified offensive line that can weather the storm of a grueling season. And you've got a league that is finally shutting up about your signature play now that they think you're vulnerable. The disrespect is at an all-time high, and that is exactly where this team thrives. They've spent the offseason making smart, calculated, and sometimes emotional moves to ensure that the collapse of last year never happens again. Is this the most complete roster in the NFC right now? It's hard to argue otherwise. The depth is there, the star power is there, and most importantly, the mental edge is being sharpened. They are ignoring the noise, ignoring the lame and weak complaint from other teams, and focusing on one goal. This isn't just about making the playoffs. It's about making a statement. The Birds are back, and they're doing it their way.